We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
This is Longshots, VSiN's premier golf betting podcast. Here's Matt Brown, Wes Reynolds, and Kelley Bydlon.
Hey, it is Longshots Golf Betting Podcast here on the VSiN Podcast Network. I'm Matt Brown. That is Wes Reynolds. That is Kelley Bydlon coming to you for the last ever Rocket Classic up there in Detroit. Did not extend the sponsorship, and so unfortunate timing for this $16 million renovation to the course. The best field we've seen in quite some time up there, but this is going to be the last iteration, so we'll certainly talk a ton about that, what we think we know about the course, and some different plays, of course, that we're going to get into the account. We got to hurry here. Producer Wyatt's on deadline, so we got to, we got to.
He's on a deadline, people.
Deadline. He's on a deadline, guys. All right.
Dan Gilbert, by the way, apparently they're not renewing the sponsorship. He was trying to lure LeBron back to Cleveland for a third time, so maybe that's why it's going away. Yeah. To no avail on that regard.
Oh yeah, we got to
come on, Dan, be better.
We got to blast through this, guys. We got a deadline to meet. We got a deadline, so we got to keep on going. Let's start with last week, though, here on the pod. And Jackson Koivun, a name that you have heard us talk about several different times here on the podcast, a guy that turned pro a month ago. We knew that he was going to win on tour. He was too talented, highly decorated collegiate golfer. All of the boxes were checked with everything. What we didn't think was that he was going to win in his third professional start, and he did. 3 shots clear of Scottie Scheffler. Now, Scottie gained a lot of that ground on Sunday, so it wasn't as close necessarily as this looks. That being said, you look up at the scoreboard and you do see that Scottie Scheffler is trying to run you down. A lot of people would wilt, and this 21-year-old did not do that. Actually told a story of he was on the 9th hole. He was in the bunker green side, and that's where the big giant scoreboard is. And as he's getting ready to shoot, he could just see Scottie Scheffler's name right below his. And he ends up getting up and down out of the sand, makes the putt, and said might have been the biggest putt of his entire career. Wes, he $1.5 million. Even more important, it jumps him all the way to 70th in the FedEx Cup standings. And so now he's actually on the cut line to make the playoffs, because you guys remember when you win, you get 500 points. Well, the cutoff is like 500 and change right now. And so Jackson Koivun goes from a collegiate golfer superstar to newly minted pro to right in the thick of actually making the playoffs. And like I said, Wes, we've talked about him. We said that he was going to be very, very good. I just didn't know if we knew he'd be this good this quickly.
Yeah, he was just the world #1 amateur just a few months ago, actually just a couple months ago, and gets the win, leads the field on approach, second in scrambling, third in putting. And by the way, you mentioned his rise up the FedEx Cup standings, also in the world rankings. Now he's being discussed for the President's Cup later this fall. And, maybe even though the President's Cup has certainly been more successful for the American side than the Ryder Cup has been, you might need some new blood in that mix there. And you've got a guy, just out of college, former NCAA champion from a team variety at Auburn University, War Eagle. And you've got to consider the guy. Like, we knew he was going to win, but it was just timing it. Okay, when's it going to happen? Is it going to maybe happen in the fall series at like a Sanderson Farms or the event out at Silverado and Napa Valley? Like, it was going to be one of those events, but he gets it done at the 3M Open, and you've got Scottie Scheffler chasing you, and you're able to just run away and hide from everybody in the field. So congratulations to Jackson Koivun, the first of many victories for him on tour.
Yeah, I feel like I can confidently say that when you look at the game this guy possesses. I'm sure you guys, if you follow any golf writers or golf accounts on the Twitter machine, you saw the 304-yard approach shot that he hit on a par 5. He just loaded up a 3-wood. It went about 275 in the air, rolled another 25 yards onto the green, and he makes eagle on that. I mean, it's just the power, the poise that he has, everything that he puts together. And Kelley was kind of showing you his statistics over the last couple of events that he has played. And, Kelley, I know we've seen guys win early in their careers, and then it's very hard to kind of get number two and all of that. But you look at this guy, and you can just kind of see it feels like it's something different with him.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think it's always easy to be too early and too excited about these guys. So I'll still give him some time. I'll be a little cautious with it, but man, it has been very, very impressive so far. That is for sure. I mean, just if you're watching at home, dialed in off the tee with the putter, right? A good place to start. Good place to start. You hear a lot of pros talk about that approach game is what really gets fine-tuned over the years and stuff. But, man, if you can bring that kind of advantage off the tee and then an upside putter like he has, it's a big-time start for him. And the approach numbers have been great here recently. It was a pure gain throughout the bag every round last week at the 3M. Really impressive stuff. And I thought it was an exciting tournament a little bit. It got exciting at the end. We had Coles in there, but then he was out of it by about halfway through on Sunday. But, man, Scheffler pushing the kid, and
thanks, Kelley.
I think that was the question. Was
I was upbeat, and like I was trying to ignore the fact that I had two more guys, and I somehow found Michael Brennan. But I somehow found Michael Brennan, who was like the only guy in the field to shoot over par on Sunday. It's like unbelievable how this golf season is going. Like, it's crazy. The guy shot 3 over par. Everyone destroyed the course on Sunday, and I found the one guy that shot over par. Like, I just can't even wrap my brain around how the golf gods hate me so much this year. But thanks for the reminder there, Kelley Bydlon.
I didn't realize how pathetic this leaderboard ended up looking. My God, like the corpses of Hideki Matsuyama, Brian Harmon, Denny McCarthy, Seamus Power, Billy Horschel jumping into the top 20. Man, if you had that parlay, good for you.
Yeah, no, it was, Wes, if we look at this, Scottie is 5th outright second.
It's insane.
His 5th runner-up of the year. Again, people are going to look at this and say that I can already tell you, guys, we're going to be going into next year, and people are going to talk about the down season from Scottie Scheffler. Like, they are going to talk about the down year from Scottie Scheffler, and yet here we are. He has finished runner 5 different times. And let's not forget, one of those times was he had to wake up at the crack of dawn and go out there in a playoff and like actually stuck it close, but just missed like a 5.5 foot putt or whatever and loses that one. This is not a down year. It's just hard to win a golf tournament. One guy wins, and especially when a guy was playing like Jackson Koivun was. I don't think we can look at this as if it was anyone's name other than Scottie Scheffler and the resume was what it was, we would be talking about what a ridiculously awesome year this is. And instead, the narrative seems to be going the other direction.
Yeah, he's got as many runner-ups as you and I do, Matt, I think, on the outrights in the golf season. But what you're saying about Scottie is true. It's too early to say, oh, man, he's Jordan Spieth, and he's, like, kind of lost. He's still right up there with 5 runners-up and has only missed the one cut at the Scottish, and then was somehow in the mix at the Open Championship, even without his best. He was still very much a factor. I think just could never get on the lead because he's a guy that's been a front runner. He gets a lead, he goes away and hides. But, the chaser, he's always dangerous. And he still even was, I think, this weekend when he did most of the damage. You still can you can never rule him out in the books yet. Don't ever put him at a good enough price where it's like, okay, I'm going to get in on Scottie live. And it's like, okay, 3-1. Well, that's kind of what he was before the tournament. So, no, thank you.
Yeah, I know. It's a little bit of a bummer. There's really no opportunity to bet him. And then it's just, he doesn't win enough for it to justify the price on him. So it's almost like you just sit back. And like I said, if you guys live in places where you can play him in DFS and all things like that, that's Scottie's a lock to be in the top 5. Basically every week. And so you're going to get a lot of points with him from there, but that's about the only aspect that we can do stuff like that. As we move on here to the 33rd event on the calendar is the Rocket Classic. Don't call it the Rocket Mortgage Classic. And if we look at the odds boards, Cam Young, decent field. Cam Young is going to be your short shot here, but we have Chris Gotterup and Xander and Siwoo and Wyndham Clark, JJ Spawn, Ben Griffin. We got a pretty decent little field here. Like we said, unfortunately, the last version of this, but Kelley, you've got the odds pulled up and you can see Cam Young, your short shot, Xander a little bit behind him. Chris Gotterup, Wyndham Clark, and Siwoo all under 20-1 here this week.
Yeah, pretty good field that we've got. And I think look, we often say this, and maybe we kind of need this motivation when we're betting golf every single week, but I like different fields, right? And this is a different field. I like having some of the stars, but you don't have the Scheffler, or you don't have a Rory, or you don't have both. I think it makes it more fun. You just get some different odds on some guys, right, that we stare at all season long. So I like it. Matt, you and I were talking a little bit about this off the air earlier. I don't really know why all these guys are here, but they are, and it's a great field, and we'll enjoy it while we have it. But I guess this is just to get some reps in as we get closer to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a theory maybe, and we'll talk about that when we do kind of the course breakdown here next segment. I have a theory of maybe why they're here, but, and as you scroll down, Kelley, I mean, we can kind of see there's actually some depth to this field as well. I mean, you go in and you see like Jake Knapp, who started to play a little bit better, Ryan Gerard, Nikolai Højgaard, Akshay, Ricky Fowler, Keegan Brown. I mean, Jacob Bridgman obviously started off the season on fire, kind of cooled off there for a little bit, but there's actually some depth to this field as well, which makes this, I think, like you said, just a little bit more fun, kind of a fun tournament to look at from that standpoint too.
Yeah, absolutely. Jackson Suber all the way down here at 80-1. Definitely a long shot card if you want to go that path this week. There's no, I mean, Ben Coles, gosh, we keep betting him. There's definitely it's definitely a long shot path you could take this week. I think with pretty good reasoning. And Jake Knapp, we'll talk about him. We'll talk about a couple of these other guys, but man, just him kind of working his way back in form, goes and gains over 7 shots on approach last week, and those odds come crashing down. There wasn't going to be any huge drift that I know at least you and I were looking for, Matt, on Jake Knapp this week.
If you guys are following us over on the YouTube channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Of course, we'll be pumping out these things all the way through the end of the season, even into the fall season as well. If it's over on the audio side, go ahead, same deal, hit that subscribe button. And if you're over on VSiN, hello, here we are. And you can look at Long Shots Pod on all the different platforms out there to go ahead and make sure that you don't miss an episode of this. Football season's going to roll around and we're not going to be around here. So be sure and take a look at us over there. When we come back, the full course breakdown. Welcome back to Long Shots, golf betting podcast here on the VSiN Podcast Network. Matt, Kelley, and Wes. And we do move now over to Detroit. We said pretty good field here, so we looked at that odds board, and it is a little bit unfortunate with a good field like this and also a $16 million renovation to the Detroit Golf Club that this is going to be the final event here. Good for the members of the club, I can say that, but unfortunate for us. It's going to be a little bit of a guessing game, I think, for us as to how this course is going to play. We have seen in years past really low scores here. Of course, we look no further than even last year, in which Aldrich Potgieter gets it done at 22 under after a after a playoff. There are a lot of people who got that low, but very different course, very different look at this. And of course, Wes writes one of the best previews in all of the industry over there. So Wes, as you were digging in and looking here at the Detroit Golf Club, what did you find out? What do you think these guys are going to be looking at this week?
Yeah, as we mentioned, this is the last year in Detroit for now. I could see the PGA Tour returning to Detroit maybe for like the BMW Championship and the FedEx Cup, because that kind of goes around the Midwest. But there are changes to this course. By the way, Detroit Golf Club legendary Donald Ross designed this last year, and obviously in the entire incarnation of the event, it is played as a par 72, kind of a birdie fest. It was 73-70, I believe, last year. This year, it's 73-28, still tree lined, even though they knocked some of the trees down. But one of the many changes that they have in this renovation designed by Tyler Ray, renovation or restoration, whatever you want to call it. Tyler Ray is a guy that's done a lot of Donald Ross designs to kind of restore them to the original concept and original strategy. This is now going to play as a 73-28 par 70. Course. So maybe not quite the birdie fest that we're used to. We shall see. There's a little bit of mystery how this is going to play. Fairway still bent POA, relatively wide, a little bit narrowed, but still in the low 30s on average in terms of width. The rough is a bluegrass, 3.5 inches, about the same as last year. Green, same mix, 50-50 bent grass and POA. They were on the smaller side, but now they're at 6,700 square feet on average. They were about 5,400 square feet in previous years. So what they've done, they've made the greens bigger and they've elevated them, because they were elevated in the original Donald Ross concept and they thought the course was too flat at Detroit Golf Club. So what they've done is they've elevated these greens. Speed is still roughly the same, about 12 on the stimp meter, tour average. And as you know, on Donald Ross designs, if you look at like Pinehurst #2 or Sedgefield, where we're coincidentally going to be next week for the Wyndham, another Ross design, back to front slopes. So that is what you're going to see on these greens. However, these greens aren't all uniform. Like they're not shaped the same necessarily. They used to be kind of like all either circular or more like oval type greens. Now they're a little bit different. And there's, different edges and different bunkering. They've changed the bunkering here too. 91 bunkers. So they've added a few, but they're larger than deeper than before. And also they're in the fairway as well. So it used to be kind of like grip it and rip it off the tee. And we'll get to that, when we get to the stat modeling that we did this week. It used to be a little bit of grip it and rip it, just distance, no real threat off the tee, just, hit it as far as you can. But now you got to be a little strategic with some fairway bunkers. And also the one water hazard that you had was removed. They had a pond on 14. Now that has been removed, replaced by some fescue grass. So now you have no water on this course whatsoever. The two big changes that you'll notice in the scorecard, and the reason why this is a par 70 now, the par 5 7th and 17th holes are now long par 4s. I'm looking at the scorecard here. The stock yardage, 505 at number 7 and 537 at number 17, par 4s. So that's the difference. You got 3 par 4s, by the way, that are over 500 yards. So in the 7th, they removed the large tree near the green, and then they relocated the green altogether to the right of the original green. So what they're going to do, you're going to have different angles at these pins. Like with smaller greens, you're a little bit limited, I think, in your pin placements. Now, not necessarily so. So it is going to be interesting to see the strategy of this. I've got a hole-by-hole flyover that the ABC affiliate in Detroit provided, so you can see some of the changes. If you're looking for comp courses a little bit, last week, Twin Cities, Deer Run, Sedgefield, where the Wyndham is, the Donald Ross design, TPC River Highlands, TPC Craig Ranch, kind of look to be the most comparable of any of the regular PGA Tour courses that we see on tour.
Yeah, Kelley, it's, you and I were talking today over on VSiN about this and, off air, but, you start doing the math in your head, right? So like, let's say 22 under is kind of like where this tournament used to be as far as the winning score. Well, We've taken 8 strokes par away from this because 2 strokes times 4 rounds. So now we're down from 22 to 14. Then you get the superintendent who thinks that the course is going to play 2 to 3 strokes more difficult just for all of the different things that they've done to it. So now we're more talking about the winning score being somewhere in that 12 to 14, 15 range and not close to that 22 that we're talking about. So we're talking more like a normal tournament on tour than we are talking about a birdie fest now. If this, again, plays to the golf math, just again, shaving off 8 strokes of par off of the winning score as it is anyway. And then also what this guy thinks as far as how difficult the course is going to play. And so, did that come to your mind as you were looking at this course as well and how you think it might play for these guys?
So I think it has to. I guess the bigger question for me, Matt, was how does that change things for how you're handicapping the event? And I don't know that it fully does. I mean, I think things like par 5 scoring, right? Like you're going to take that out. You're going to decrease what you're weighing on stats like that. But how are you actually approaching the course from the beginning? I still think distance off the tee is going to matter here, as we've seen that in the past. I know they're renovating this course. You brought it up though, Wes. We've seen in the past it's not been very penal off to the sides. I think there's going to be some changes there, but like I think I'm gonna be leaning still more on what I've seen before heading into this, and then I will adjust from what I see out there. I think it's Wes went over everything that I've got in my notes too. I mean, I think there's some things that we know and some things that when you deal with a new golf course or a full renovation like this, we're not going to fully know until they start playing.
Yeah, I mean,
I just think that they too want this to be a little bit more like maybe the FedEx Cup events that are coming up. Like they want this to play more similar to like Southwind in Memphis or Belle Reve or East Lake.
Yeah, I'm with you, Wes. Like that was, now we're kind of like getting back around to my theory here, where like, why does a Cam Young or why does a Xander and why do they show, like, in my opinion, I think they took a look at this course and think that it's actually going to be a challenge, and that this isn't actually that this is actually a good tune-up, that this is going to be something that they can go out and use over the next month, as they go down and try to chase down the big checks towards the end of the season. And so, I don't have any idea what a 4 to 6 foot ditch looks like, or what it's going to play like, or anything like that. And I don't know how much fescue has been added and all of these things or whatever. But I mean, it just by the nature of everything, it seems like this course is going to play a little bit more difficult. And again, my theory, none of these guys have said this out loud, but I wonder if they kind of looked at it and thought, okay, as opposed to go out there and just get into a putting contest with these guys and some birdie fail, like this course might actually put up a little bit of teeth, and this is a good warm-up event for me to get ready for the big ticket item. So again, just a theory. Nobody has said that.
Well, I'll add on to that, Matt, is if that theory is correct and it makes sense, I think that checks out for everybody's. My first question was, why the hell are these guys here? That's the answer, right? Like, the answer is it's a better tune-up for the playoffs. I think, though, if that theory is right, and this isn't going to help many people either, but if that theory is right, it's likely going to play more difficult than you're even describing. That's what I would think. Like, if they're showing up for a test, right? Like, you knocked off the 8 strokes just from what we're doing, moving from par 5s to par 4s. That has nothing to do with the course getting any tougher. That is just math from par 5s to par 4s, right? And then it's after that, how much are we really factoring in? And you said, like, a superintendent talking about a couple strokes. Like, I don't know if I bat an eye really at a couple strokes at a course like this that has played this easy over the years. But if they're showing up for a sterner test, like, I think this is probably more likely like a 7 under, 8 under finish sort of thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I mean, like, we'll see what it looks like once they actually get out there and go at it. But we're gonna find out, Wes, what $16 million will do to a golf course. I imagine it does pretty well for it.
Yeah, it looked cool in terms of the layout. When I was looking at the flyover footage.
Yeah, the minimal amount of stuff that I've seen on Twitter was it seems really positively recepted so far. Is that where you were going, Kelley?
No, I was going to say the biggest. Sorry, I was not going to be as helpful. The biggest thought I had out of reading the renovation notes was, man, when does a pond become a lake? And when you remove a pond, like, how much grass does that require? I kind of want to be a part of that project, Wes. Filling in a pond.
How they got this done so quickly too, because these are a lot of changes.
Yeah, that's what the guy said. He said this was a year-long project that they got done in 9 months or whatever. So they basically shaved 3 months off this project to be able to get it done and get it going. When we come back, we'll let you know the stats that matter in our models, what it spit out, and we'll get to talking about some of these picks in our account. Welcome back to Long Shots. Matt, Wes, and Kelley just talked about everything going up there in Detroit, $16 million worth of renovations. And how's this course going to play? I guess we'll find out once we get out there. We're going to take our best shot here at throwing some winners into the account. But first and foremost, how did we decipher what we think is going to be necessary to win on this course? I mean, guys, I focused heavily on just off the tee and approach numbers, mainly because those are the default deals that if you're good off the tee and you're good on approach, you can basically be good at any course, And so, like, I just kind of like defaulted to these very generic kind of deals. And then I just kind of did the mixed condition model where my baseline was 32 rounds, which in theory would be 8, 9, 10 tournaments, depending on if guys made every cut or however you want to look at it like that. And then I also just put in off the tee last 12, approach last 12, mixed in to that model to kind of see if there's anybody like kind of on a heater off the tee or on approach. But, again, outside of that, I guess don't make bogeys. I guess don't whatever, maybe there's some around the green stuff considering these are elevated greens now with all that, but they're big. So I mean, again, they're big. If you're playing from off of them and they're big, then you're probably not playing very well with your irons. And so I don't know. I was pretty confused with all this. I kept it pretty generic for me this week. Kelley, I don't know if that differs from what you did.
Yeah, no, I think that was pretty well said, right? I mean, this is a great example. I mean, for people that listen to this podcast sometimes or watch us and go, what the hell are these guys talking about with stats and everything every single week, right? Like, this is this is a great example of what happens when you're throwing a brand new course right in the middle of the season. And even with some of the majors, we have some data that we think we can pull off of, or we're looking at more recent form or what guys have done across majors in the past, stuff like that. It's interesting. It's an interesting challenge. I just think I can speak for all three of us. It would be nice if we knew we were scouting a course that we were going to see again. Like, all right, one time, let's see it. Like, we're not going to be back next year and be like, well, see, we had this experiment last year. Now we know. But fortunately, we're not really going to have that. I think, Matt, I think you set it up pretty well. I actually just pulled some even more basic. I did tee to green, strokes gained tee to green. I did strokes gained total a little bit. Did all of that. I think the around the green question is fascinating. I think that we are still looking at a tournament that's going to play easy enough that our old line of like, hey, look, if you're playing this much around the green, you're not winning this golf tournament. I think that still applies. This week. But if we're making this tougher, we're turning par fives into par fours, every stroke's mattering a little bit more. Right. We talk about the elevating greens, right? I think that's huge. Harder to stick approach shots, right? And those things that when you do miss the green, it's going to be that much more challenging to get up and down. I think around the green probably comes into play more this week than I'm factoring in, but I don't know how much. And I think that's one of those that we kind of got to see it play out before we can really answer that question. So I did a lot of what you did. I think distance off the tee is still going to help here. I did a lot off the tee, strokes gained there, and then heavy approach, greens in regulation, opportunities gained. I think these guys are going to have clean shots into these greens. So want to see them sticking it there. I did a little bit of putting then, more than I usually do at this place. I will say that. Increased green size, I think guys coming in with more steady putter play and better putters onto a new course. I think that just makes sense to me that these guys will have a little bit of an advantage, but Wes detailed it earlier. This isn't exactly a normal green surface that these guys are used to playing on either. It's split between POA and bent. So it's not like this is, right, look at pure Bermuda guys, look at pure bent guys, right? So I think that's a little interesting. That was basically it. Birdies are better. I did par 4 scoring, right? Add 2 more par 4s, get rid of the par 5s. I did par 4 scoring. Wes mentioned it too. We got a few real long ones here, over 500 yards as well. So I think distance overall is going to matter. That's kind of what I focused around, but really the ball striking off the tee and on approach is where I mainly focus.
Wes, did you differ at all with that? I mean, I assume just, we're always heavy on approach or whatever, but is there anything that you kind of tweaked into the model from something that you think that the way that the course is going to play?
Not a ton necessarily, but I start with off the tee because in the past it was all about OTT driving distance.
Right.
Like even though you would have outliers, like Aaron Rye, I think was the runner up here 2 years ago in 2024. Not exactly a long hitter off the tee, but you look last year, Potgieter, Grazerman, Jake Knapp, all bombers off the tee. The year before, Davis Thompson, Minwoo, Cam Young, Eric Van Rooyen, all guys that can really get it out there off the tee. So I did do some OTT, but I did a little more total driving because I didn't want to go too much accuracy, but I felt I had to put it in there a little bit just because you have these bunkers in different places now in the fairway. So it's not just smooth sailing, hit it down there as far as you can, even though the stock yardage of the course is going to be fairly similar. It's only like 30 yards difference. So you're still going to be pulling driver more often than not off the tee. So I think you could still approach it that way, just maybe not so much distance. And then you guys, of course, mentioned approach. I did a little putting too as well, guys, because you do have some more contours and breaks in these greens. Not like last week where they're kind of like a little bit more smooth, pretty straightforward, not much to them. And I also did around the green just because I think the pin placements are going to be in different spots. Like they're going to put these in some tricky spots. Like they're not going to be, just go flag hunting like you have in previous years where you shot 20 some under to win this thing. So they're going to put them in tricky spots. So guys are going to miss greens or guys are going to try to get tricked and go in for what they think is a gettable pin. And then they're eventually going to have to chip or pitch or hit out of the sand. So I did use that. Birdie or better opportunities gained. I think some crossover there. And then I did stroke tee and par 4. I did specialize it a little bit. So smaller percentage, but over 500 yards because you got 3 of them and then you got one at 491. So that's pretty much a 500-yard par 4. So you're going to have, I think that's got to take into account some longer irons here in terms of the fact that, hey, you're going to have close to 200 on a second shot on a couple of these par 4s, not necessarily on a par 5. So pretty similar philosophy, a couple different things. I did a little bit more total driving than I thought I would.
So, guys, looking at the picks, unlike last week, where there was a decent amount of crossover this week, only one crossover play this week for us. Wes, it is you and I, so you can go ahead and cross this guy's off y'all's list. He's not winning. But you and I are both on Davis Thompson. Davis Thompson shockingly modeled out incredibly high for me. And so I had to dig in a little bit further. And I think that considering what you and I seem to have emphasized in our models, probably why he ended up where he ended up. But if, you look last week, decent finish there, gained off the tee, gain on approach, high finish. And like, that's kind of like the model here for me is why I ended up on him. If you go through basically his entire career, if he gains off the tee and gains on approach, even with the struggles around the green, even with the struggles with the putter, he's putting together some decent finishes. And so for me, spike putt weeks come and go. He's even had a few. There's one RBC Canadian, he gained 5.2. There's another Valspar, gained 3.6. So he can spike with the putter. And so kind of fit the profile of a dude that's kind of longer shot anyway. You're talking like into the 60s if you're talking about Davis Thompson. So only one that we share this week, though. That's me and you and Davis Thompson.
Yeah, runner up here 2 years ago, by the way, in Detroit. Good history on Ross Designs. By the way, he finished T7, but he was second in ball striking of the guys that obviously made the weekend. More on that later. Behind Jackson Koivun, who won the tournament by 3 strokes. So he shot 63, 66 on the weekend. Good history on Donald Ross with the runner up in Detroit, 3 top 25s at the Wyndham, where we'll be next week. And then his only major top 10 finish in a major to date was the U.S. Open at Pinehurst number 2 years ago. He is one of those guys on the outside looking in right now. 93rd in FedEx Cup points. You got to be in the 70 or above to make Memphis here in a couple weeks for the FedEx St. Jude. So there's going to be a couple guys that play their way in here, I think, to that. And maybe Davis Thompson fits the bill if he could keep that momentum going from Minneapolis last week.
Kelley, not to squeeze you here, but I just don't think it's going to need much explanation. Your first pick here in the last minute is Chris Gotterup, a guy that you absolutely love, and I don't think we need to explain. He's probably the second best guy in this field behind Cam Young, like as far as like skill set.
Yeah, man, he's good. I was just a little surprised considering how the odds board lines up that you could get 18-1 on him. I really thought that he would be higher up here. I mean, I would have him ahead of Xander Schauffele. I know he is at some shops. I think he should be right on the same level, if not ahead of him. But yeah, Gotterup's been awesome. He's got a couple good finishes here. T26, T67, T49. So he's missed the cut all 3 times. T26 is his best. But he's my highest rated guy last 12 rounds. I mean, it's stellar off the tee, 10th in distance, 16th on approach, 2nd in par 4 scoring. Results have been absolutely awesome. Again, a T18 at the Open, T11 at the Scottish, won the John Deere. So yeah, I'm back on Chris Gotterup. I wasn't expecting to get an 18-1. That's kind of where I started my card and kind of carved the rest out of it from there.
Yeah, I mean, literally, the only knock on him is, again, kind of the around the green and scrambling game. But like we said, if you're doing too much of that anyway, then you're probably not winning this tournament. So it's easy to overlook because he is just absolutely crushing it everywhere else. We'll be right back with the rest of our picks. See if there's anything you want to add to your outright card here for the Rocket Classic. Welcome back to Long Shots. Going to get right in it here to make sure that we have time to talk about all of these picks. And Wes, Jake Knapp had a very good round for the first time in a long time last week. Guy was absolutely on fire to start the season. We were betting him a ton. Then injury kind of derailed everything, but who knows? Maybe he's healthy. Maybe that was a sign of things to come for Jake Knapp.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and buy here, mid-30s. So you're not getting a real bargain on the price, considering he's T13 at the 3M, finished with that 62 on Sunday, 3rd on approach, 4th on ball striking last week. That was the first time Jake Knapp has really played well in about 4 months or so, because keep in mind, he missed 2 months with that thumb sprain and the wrist issue that happened at the RBC Heritage. But maybe it's a good sign he's returning to form. He started out like a house fire, like you mentioned, 11th or better in 7 of his first 8 events in 2023. 26. So maybe he's returning to form. Keep in mind, he was right in the mix here last year to win this thing, fourth. Just missed the playoff, by the way, by one. So he is sounding positive about his health. So I'm going to give Jake Knapp a try, even though you only have one real good recent start to go on.
Another guy that we were betting early on in the season, and certainly a lot last year as well, Ryan Gerard, seems to be trending in the right direction. There's a missed cut in there at the U.S. Open. I don't think that anybody's going to blame him for that, but we have an outright second, T44, T26, T9, and a guy that, as we know, super skilled and certainly can be green across the board.
Yeah, around 40-ish to 1 on Ryan Gerard. You could maybe find a little bit more in certain places. 18th in the FedEx Cup playoffs, so he's totally safe. He's going to make the Tour Championship more than likely for the finale. 3 runners-up this year, Memorial, Sony, and also the American Express. Now with Detroit, it is more of a strategic driving course, which I think is more suited to Gerard's game. 8th on the PGA Tour for par 4 birdie or better, 11th on approach. The win this calendar year is kind of eluding him, and I've got a couple guys on the card this week where they've been knocking at the door, just hadn't been able to get it done, and it's like they're running out of opportunities, but eventually it could happen, and I think this could be a week for Gerard for that.
I wonder about this next one, if this was one of your gut plays that sometime you have on the card. What did you like about Akshay?
Yeah, because if you look at the last tournament, missed the cut at the Open, and real disappointment, by the way, in the majors. Missed 3 of the 4 cuts, only made the cut at the U.S. Open T17. But he has won. He won at the Arnold Palmer. Probably should have won the Pebble Beach. Ended up top 6, Phoenix Travelers. Runner-up here in Detroit 2 years ago, second on approach, second for ball striking in that event. He is number 1 for putting, actually, on the PGA Tour. Now, this is just overall putting. This is not, grass or agronomy specific. So I think he's one of the more adept at the field with these changes in the greens. And plus, because it's a little bit more of a challenge, Akshay, a left-hander, he kind of uses all of the course, which could be good or bad, but I think could be good here because he can attack the different angles with the pins. So this was a little bit more gut because I don't think he was a strong model necessarily on recent form. So Akshay, 45 to 1 this week.
Kind of keeping in that same odds range here, Kelley. The first guy off my card is your next guy in Ben Griffin.
Yeah, man, I'm usually not the Ben Griffin guy. He's usually not someone I gravitate towards betting. So this is a little bit interesting for me. Rated out very, very highly for me.
Same.
This week, 4th rated in the last 12-round model. So, yeah, I think very interesting. Just pulling up his profile right now. I mean, he's been gaining on approach, locked in with the irons, and I think that's what I'm always looking at with Ben Griffin as how's the iron game going. Has gained in 6 straight on approach and around the green. So if that comes into play, I don't mind that as well. One of the best putters that's out there. Has good finishes here as well. T13, T31, T33. It's kind of gained everywhere on this course. So like Ben Griffin this week, did play him outright and a top 20 on him.
Kind of in that low 30s, mid 30-ish range. You can also find Hideki.
Yeah, this was it's someone I've had my eye on just because I think there's some value in the betting numbers at this point on Hideki in these fields. But man, he's starting to put it together last 3 weeks, right? Just last 3 weeks. It's a T3, a T14, a T14. Off the tee, finally, it seems like he's able to drive the ball at least straight. He's gaining off the tee, the around the green, and then he's gained with the putter. It's just the approach game, which is wild to see with Hideki Matsuyama, that's kind of where he's lagging behind. But yeah, Hideki, this field, he's played well here. T13 last time out. He's got a couple, 3 top 21 finishes in 5 starts here. Also has a WD and a missed cut, but that's very Hideki Matsuyama-ish. So yeah, like Hideki this week, gonna roll it out there with, you're getting Hideki in this field in the 30s. I thought that was a pretty good number to bet into.
Yeah, I in my lowest on the card, Wyndham Clark, modeled out very, very highly. And typically not the profile that I like at this price range. But again, you got to play the field. You got to play what's going on here. Like, Wyndham is kind of the guy that, again, if he has a good week, Wyndham is going to be in the mix to win the tournament. And then if he has a bad week, he's likely to get cut. Typically, I like that more in the 40, 50, 60, even longer range, like for a profile of a guy. But, look, this is a proven winner on tour multiple times already this year, obviously multiple times in the past as well. And I do love the profile whenever you see it's basically the formula, right? Like if he's gaining off the tee, he's gaining on approach, he's in the mix, he's going to be doing something there. And even when he's not, the other parts of the game can be so good that he can keep himself around, as you see right there with the Travelers. So did play Wyndham JJ Spawn is my other kind of low rated, like kind of low number guy that I ended up playing, guys. And this one kind of came out of nowhere. But in this model, I mean, JJ Spawn is 9th overall for me.
He's 7th in mine. I just can't bet any more JJ Spawn.
I know he's the most frustrating guy ever to play for sure. But you know, you kind of look
at the approach.
I was going to say, but you start to look at the numbers and you get it. Like you understand why, right? And it's like, okay, yeah, he struggles with the putter more times than not, but there can be those weeks here and there with him. You see, he's gained 4, he's gained 5. I mean, these are different weeks on tour, but JJ Spawn, another guy that modeled out very well for me, ended up on the card. Also on Nikolai Højgaard, if we'll circle back around if we have time to talk about him a little bit. But Wes, want to get back to the kind of the mid-range to long shot stuff here, and a guy that we've bet a ton. You're going back to Hisatsune.
Yeah, same reason as Gerard. I just think that, you know, he's close to due, and I hate that word in betting, but he's close to due, I think, to maybe get across the finish line. He's made 20 cuts in a row, by the way, even though some of them signature. 5 top 10s this year. Didn't really model high necessarily, but top 10 in total driving, 16th overall for proximity to the hole, birdie maker all season long. So he was a bit like actually a little more of a gut play for me.
Yeah, and then we got a couple of the young guns here in Suber and Kiefer.
Yeah, both of them widely tipped last week and both missed the cut, but both of them had modicum of success over in the UK. Jackson Suber, of course, was the first round leader at the Open before he eventually fell to T28, even though he was in like one of the final 3 groups on Sunday. And then he comes back to the 3M Open, and it's like, that's tough when you're a young player and you have that travel overseas and you come back, get right to the grind, and then he missed the cut. But now we're going to buy the dip on these guys with Suber and Kiefer. I'll start with Suber, around 80-ish to 1. He was about half of that price last week at some places at the 3M. And now you get a guy that has 3 top 6s in less than 2 months leading into that trip over in the UK. And same thing with Johnny Kiefer, who I saw as high as 100 to 1 at FanDuel. Top 10 in this field for total driving, top 20 on approach. Younger player. He was 3rd at the Scottish Open, made the cut at the Open Championship, and then missed the cut last week. He was in like the 40 range, and now you're getting him close to 100 to 1 in a lot of places. He, by the way, is 73rd in the FedEx Cup points. Suber is 80th. So you are really, really close. You need one more good event, either here or at the Wyndham next week, to get in that top 70 and pretty much lock in your card, lock in the signature events, the whole 9 yards for next season.
And then a guy you and I were both on last week that didn't pan out, William Meow.
Yeah, Billy Meow, who missed the cut last week. But despite the fact that he missed the cut, if you look at the first 2 rounds, he actually led the field for strokes gained ball striking over one Jackson Koivun, who ended up leading the whole tournament. So what does that tell us? He couldn't make a putt. He was dead last in the field, by the way, for strokes gained putting the first 2 rounds. But I think with these greens being different, the players that have struggled lately, like the disadvantage is not as much as normal as it was before. By the way, 3rd in total driving in this field and 13th in approach. So I'm buying a little bit of the dip on these guys. I know it's a stronger field, so the prices have to be higher, and they missed a cut. Sometimes I think we overvalue that. So I'm taking a chance with those bombs this week that they're going to show up on the leaderboard.
My last two, one's a gut and one's a model. The model play is Rasmus Nørgaard Peterson. He has gained off the tee in 12 straight tournaments. He has spike weeks with the irons, and he's horrific around the green. But like we said, we're not really worried about that. If he's around the green too much, it's not going to matter. So he's the model play, the gut play. I'm going back to Nikolai Højgaard. I'm in love with this game. I love everything about it. He's kind of faded here of late, but maybe this is the tournament. Maybe this is the course. Maybe understanding the gravity of heading towards the end of the season, he can pull everything together. So all of our plays up over at VSiN.com as well. So be sure, go in. Anything on the picks page and anything we add, we will put onto the Twitter machine as well. So be sure that you're following all of us. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button, be that YouTube, be that audio. And if you're over on the VSiN side of things, you can head on and find us at Longshots Pod as well. For Kelley, for Wes, I'm Matt. Good luck on all your Rocket Classic picks.